Judge Boasberg came out, was talking to other judges basically about how to create a process and a plan to stop Trump in the courts, and that is completely unethical. Every judge in that room was looking directly to Roberts just for any indication. Did he make any micro facial expressions, or what did he do? Oh, I know, Trump's an insurrect tyrant. Or was he poker face?
Chief Justice Roberts and roughly 24 other federal judges, by straying from the traditional topics to express his belief that the Trump administration would, quote, disregard rulings of federal courts and trigger a, quote, constitutional crisis.
Judge Boasberg getting hit with a complaint. This one coming officially from Pam Bondi, the DOJ Attorney General. She posted this today, saying, "Today, at my direction, the DOJ filed a misconduct complaint that we're going to read against U.S. District Judge Chief James Boasberg. He's in Washington, D.C., right around the corner, for making improper public comments about President Trump and his administration. Now, these comments have undermined the integrity of the judiciary, and we will not stand for that," says Pam Bondi. And we read through this report that came over from Margot Cleveland because she got her hands, and she says that at a dinner, Judge Boasberg came out, was talking to other judges basically about how to create a process and a plan to stop Trump in the courts, and that is completely unethical. So Bondi posted this, and we've actually got Chad Mizell, who is the person who I believe actually drafted the letter. He said this in response: "Judge Boasberg first tried to persuade Chief Justice Roberts and other federal judges that the Trump administration would not follow court orders, despite having no basis for his belief. Then he acted on his baseless belief again and again in litigation over which he was presiding. Boasberg violated the canons of code of conduct for the United States judges, including the requirement that he promote public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. Today, at the direction of the Attorney General, DOJ filed a judicial misconduct complaint against him." Now, federal judges often complain about the decline of public trust in the judiciary. Well, if the judiciary simply ignores improper conduct like Judge Boasberg's, it's going to have itself to blame when the public stops trusting it. But Boasberg violated these rules. Federal judges must do better. And here is what the actual complaint looks like against former Chief Judge out of D.C. To Judge Boasberg and his boss, more specifically, the Chief Judge of the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. So we're going upstairs to talk to your boss. Now, pursuant to U.S. Code and the rules for judicial conduct, at the direction of the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, we respectfully submit this complaint to you, Court of Appeals, alleging misconduct by the Chief Judge of D.C., James Boasberg, he's still the chief, for making improper public comments against Trump to the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court and other federal judges that have undermined the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. On March 11th, Boasberg attended a session of the Judicial Conference of the United States, which exists to discuss administrative matters. We've got budgets, securities, facilities, basic administrative functions, okay? You're not getting into Trump's a tyrant stuff. While there, Boasberg attempted to improperly influence Chief Justice Roberts and roughly 24 other federal judges by straying from the traditional topics to express his belief that the Trump administration would disregard the rulings of the federal courts, which they never did or even intimated that they would do. In fact, the opposite. The judge wanted them to turn the airplanes around in the middle of the sky. That was not going to happen. But every other opportunity, Trump, many times, people have been demanding, just ignore the judges, just ignore the judges, tell them to get bent, make them do something about it. Never even come close to that. And trigger a constitutional crisis. And although his comments would be inappropriate, even if they had some basis, they were even worse because Boasberg had no basis to make those claims. The Trump administration has always complied with all court orders, and nor did Judge Boasberg identify any purported violations of the court orders to justify his unprecedented predictions. Now, the judge might say that he ordered Trump to turn the people around, but my prior point was that Trump has constitutional powers. And so if a judge is saying you can't do your job and you can do your job, you can do that thing. And even the Supreme Court said that Boasberg couldn't order Trump to do the thing that he did. Within days of those statements, Boasberg began acting on his preconceived belief that the Trump administration would not follow orders. First, although he lacked the authority to do so, he issued a TRO preventing the government from removing violent Tren de Aragua terrorists out of our country. Supreme Court summarily vacated that because he was wrong. Now, throughout the proceedings, Boasberg rushed the government through complex litigation, sometimes giving the Trump administration less than 48 hours to respond, and threatening criminal contempt and the appointment of an outside prosecutor. Boasberg went nuts. I don't think he liked people talking about his liberal wife or whatever. Against senior Trump administration officials for failing to comply with an order that had already been vacated. Now, taken together, Boasberg's words and deeds violate the code of conduct for these judges, and they erode public confidence in judicial neutrality, and they warrant a formal investigation under Rule 11 1, Judge Srinivasan. Here are the different rules, and we've had a lot of bad judges here over our time recently. But here, Canon 1, a judge should uphold the integrity and the independence of the judiciary. A judge should act at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and the impartiality of the judiciary. In Canon 3A6, a judge should not make a public comment on the merits of a matter pending or impending in any court. That's not what happened with Judge James Boasberg Jeb. The Judicial Conference is the policy-making body of the courts. It operates strictly as an administrative body, focusing on policy matters related to operations, doesn't handle substantive issues or specific cases. Its proceedings are designed to maintain the judiciary's institutional integrity, which is all that matters, by addressing only systemic administrative concerns that affect everybody, carefully avoiding discussions that could compromise judicial neutrality or create the appearance of bias towards particular litigants. Common topics of discussion at these meetings include court security, budget, administration facilities, and issues regarding probation and pretrial services. And so on March 11th, 2025, at one of the conference's semi-annual meetings, Judge Boasberg said, you know what, I'm gonna go. And he did. And he disregarded its history, tradition, and purpose to push a wholly unsolicited discussion about concerns that the administration would disregard rulings of federal courts, leading to a constitutional crisis. By singling out a sitting president who was and remains a party to dozens of active cases, Boasberg attempted to transform a routine housekeeping agenda into a forum to make a point in front of all of the other federal judges. This guy's a piece of work. Of his preconceived belief that the Trump administration would violate court orders, okay? Boasberg walked up. It was not time to grab the mic, but he did. He needed a point to make because he's so mad at Trump and he's so invested in taking him out. So he shows up at this meeting, takes the mic, gets up there, screams out to all the other judges, Trump is going to violate our orders. And Roberts, of course, responded and said, you're not supposed to talk, stop it. Boasberg's actions not only breached his duties, but they also defied reality and the law. First, the Trump administration has complied with every court order, including the unlawful orders that the appellate courts have subsequently stayed or reversed. And second, federal courts must begin from a presumption of regularity, which they have all thrown out, which is why they've issued injunction after injunction after injunction. The settled doctrine that executive officials have properly discharged their official duties absent clear evidence otherwise. Now, by predicting non-compliance, Boasberg turned that presumption on its head. It's supposed to be a presumption that they'll follow the rules. Your government, you're on the same team. But it contradicts both the evidence from Trump of past compliance and governing law. These comments to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court and other federal judges in a public setting undermine the integrity and the impartiality of the judiciary in violation of judicial canons. And so by expressing his view, Judge Boasberg, that a particular litigant, Trump, would violate court orders, Boasberg degraded public confidence in the integrity of the judiciary. Yeah, he's definitely done that. Litigants expect that every judge will decide matters based on facts in the law before them, not on preconceived notions that government officials will violate the law. And worse, Boasberg's comments were also directed at the chief judge and approximately 24 other federal judges to try to persuade them to adopt his view and to try to poison the well. These are the same judges that are going to hear other cases. And because the Chief Justice would review Boasberg's decisions, his remarks were especially problematic as he attempted to prejudice the very court that would scrutinize his decisions, as it ultimately did, saying that he was unlawful. What he did and ordered Trump was actually illegal. Supreme Court said you can't do that and reversed it. In a recent interview, University of California, Berkeley law professor John Yoo criticized Boasberg, saying that was an inappropriate setting to try to get the Chief Justice to give his opinion on whether there's a constitutional crisis right now. In essence, he's like trying to like bro it up. You know, don't you understand? He's like, Robert's like, oh no, make some snide comment about it. And that's the game. To try to get the Chief Justice to give his opinion on whether there's a constitutional crisis between the courts and the presidency. And every judge in that room was looking directly to Roberts just for any indication. Did he make any micro facial expressions or what did he do? Oh, like, oh yeah, like, oh, I know, Trump's an insurrect tyrant. Or was he poker face? In essence, Boasberg was trying to entrap the Chief Justice to get him on the record and join him to almost approve what he's doing to spark this fight. This attempt to persuade another official should be discounted in light of their alleged propensity to violate court orders and undermining the integrity of the judiciary. And it's not mere conjecture to say that Boasberg's comments eroded public confidence. It's already happened. His remarks have been widely publicized and criticized, especially here, and this is precisely why the canons prescribe this type of stuff. Now, Boasberg's ensuing judicial actions over the next 5 weeks followed the very script he had sketched at the conference. On March 15th, 2025, just 4 days after he made his comments, he granted a temporary restraining order against Trump in the JGG case, illegal alien gangbangers, halting the removal of the Tren de Aragua terrorists who were on the airplane. Within hours of the complaint being filed, and the United States didn't even have a chance to appear, didn't even have a minute to respond. That evening, he expanded relief. He made a nationwide class action of Tren de Aragua gangbangers, cementing his restraining constraints before the government could even file a brief. Then he convened an emergency compliance hearing before the government's motion to vacate was even due, openly suggesting that non-compliance he had predicted just 6 days earlier had occurred. I knew you were going to violate the law. That's why I set it up, so you could fail. Over the next 48 hours, he ordered declarations detailing flight paths, passenger counts. I want information. I want to know what they had in first class, what was the breakfast and the lunch. Hopefully it was good. Deadlines so compressed that the DOJ twice sought relief and was rebuffed by him. He's, get out of here. Says, I'm in charge. This departure from standard practice confirms, or at least gives the impression, that his conference prediction hardened into judicial action that was driven by his agenda and not the facts in the law. On April 7th, the Supreme Court vacated Judge Boasberg's class-wide TRO, confirming that Boasberg lacked the authority to issue it, and underscoring that they rushed to do this, and in doing so, sacrificed basic legal principles. Now, undeterred by the Supreme Court's reversal, Boasberg still proceeded to issue a 46-page show cause opinion threatening criminal contempt and appointing an outside prosecutor. We saw all that. Since then, the D.C. Circuit has also recognized Boasberg's errors, staying his decisions twice. Now, these facts, read together, show that Boasberg's actions have harmed the integrity and the public confidence in the integrity of the judiciary. His comments on March 11th also appear to have been improperly implemented from the bench, and having assumed Trump would defy court orders, then Boasberg came out, threatened sanctions against him, all of it on a false premise. He was wrong. The Supreme Court said that. Such conduct violates the litigant's trust in an impartial judiciary, and you have to safeguard the integrity of the courts. Now, the DOJ respectfully requests that the Chief Judge Boasberg take the following actions. Here's what he should do since he's been a bad judge. Docket and refer this complaint to a special investigative committee under the rules, as an inquiry is essential to determine whether Boasberg's conduct prejudicial to the effective and expeditious administration of the business of the court. So open him up for an investigation. 2, order interim corrective measures during the investigation, including reassignment of the Trump cases to another judge to prevent further erosion of public confidence, so strip his cases from him that involve the Trump administration, and upon substantiation, impose appropriate disciplinary action, including a public reprimand. Oh, judges hate that. And referral to the Judicial Conference for consideration of impeachment-related recommendations. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Reprimand is like, great. You know, have reprimands for breakfast. I mean, it doesn't even matter. Whatever. But this is what we want. Impeachment recommendations and actual impeachment. Even if he's not removed, that's fine. He'll hate being impeached by the House. An independent judiciary depends on both the actual and apparent impartiality. Boasberg publicly forecasted his baseless predictions of presidential lawlessness, which never happened, then issued erroneous rulings based on that preconceived notion, which the Supreme Court had to vacate. Now, this sequence meets at a minimum the classic definition of failure to promote public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. Swift, visible action will reinforce that our courts mean something. Signed by Chad Mizell, Chief of Staff for Pam Bondi. So we've been waiting for that one, and we're happy to see it come down. Senators were also opining on this. Tom Cotton said, Judge Boasberg tried to stop an overseas military flight filled with depraved, criminal, illegal aliens. He's acting more like a resistance activist than a judge. It's true. Bondi is right to ensure that he's not undermining the integrity of the judiciary. And Senator Eric Schmitt has also come down on Boasberg. He says, this rogue judge, Boasberg, saying he may discipline the DOJ for not turning the planes around from El Salvador even though they were full of terrorists. Ridiculous. Boasberg was just exposed for being biased against Trump last week anyways. And now Senator Eric Schmitt says he's got new receipts that show just how partisan Boasberg is. Here is the article. Obviously, the Reuters was saying he's going to punish Trump. Now, this is a long-running pattern. Margot Cleveland and Senator Eric Schmitt are sharing that report. According to the memo, he was at a conference and he was communicating improperly with other judges. And it's not appropriate to do that. And so during his confirmation hearing, Eric Schmitt said, Boasberg told the Judiciary Committee that judges should not work from a desired outcome in assessing the law and the facts, and a judge should fairly and impartially uphold the law. So why didn't he do that, is what Senator Eric Schmitt is implying. Some have suggested that his actions were a violation of the Code of Conduct, and now he encourages a judicial misconduct complaint. That was yesterday, and boom, that dropped today. So lots of people weighing in on it, and President Trump also fired someone else from the DOJ. We already knew this, but now you can see it in email. Kyle Cheney grabbed this one. He writes for Politico, says, this was to Desiree. And remember, Desiree was going to be the new U.S. attorney in New Jersey after Alina Abba was not renewed. Desiree got fired. And now Trump's lawyers are responding to her because Desiree said, I'm going to show up and take the job. And so they sent this letter to her. And now this was filed today in a case. Desiree, you may not lawfully serve as the United States Attorney for the District of New Jersey. This is coming from Saurabh Sharma, Special Assistant to the President. The District Court for the District of New Jersey lacked authority to appoint you under U.S. Code because Alina Abba resigned as the U.S. Attorney on July 24th, which was before her appointment expired under the law, which was at the end of July 25th. Regardless, even if the district court had such authority, the President of the United States hereby removes you from the office pursuant to his authority and the Constitution. On July 24th, the Attorney General appointed Alina Abba the first Assistant U.S. Attorney pursuant to her authority under the law, and so therefore Alina is thus now acting U.S. Attorney pursuant to other provisions of the law. So Boasberg's getting hit by the DOJ. DOJ's firing people and taking the lead on who these U.S. attorneys will be, not judge-picked U.S. attorneys, presidential-picked U.S. attorneys as his prerogative. But here is what Fox News was reporting. Our friend Amuse and Carly Bonney clipped this for us on their report.
It's John Roberts. It reads, while there, Judge Boasberg attempted to improperly influence Chief Justice Roberts and roughly 24 other federal judges by straying from the traditional topics to express his belief that the Trump administration would, quote, disregard rulings of federal courts and trigger a, quote, constitutional crisis. Attorney General Pam Bondi posting on social media, these comments have undermined the integrity of the judiciary, and we will not stand for that. Now, this is the second time the AG Bondi and the DOJ have gone after district court judges. Earlier this year, DOJ filed a complaint against another federal judge for alleged misconduct in a case challenging the White House policy barring transgenders from serving in the military. We reached out to Judge Boasberg. No comment from the judge or the court this morning, but this complaint will go to one step higher on the Court of Appeals, the chief judge there.
All right, so this could be interesting because we might see Boasberg's response and a lot of stuff be publicly filed in response to this, may not, but we could, and that could be interesting. And we're happy to see the DOJ take some action on this. We know Congress won't. They're just sitting around allowing it to happen. I don't even know what they're doing, but certainly not confirming Trump's appointees, but that is the latest. So Boasberg gets hit with complaint from Pam Bondi. It was a good one. The guy, we know exactly what he was doing. And you've had people at this, like in your office meetings, like everybody's unhappy about something and the meeting's about something else, and that one person stands up and he's like, you know, while we're all here, I just wanted to make sure that we had the microwave policy cleared out, cleared up. And everybody's like, we already solved that 3 weeks ago, like, why are you talking about that? Don't talk about the microwave policy, whatever. And then everybody has to fight over it. You're like, shut up. It's not the right time for this. You're not supposed to say that stuff. And that's what this was. And Boasberg stood up to complain about, dirty microwaves or whatever, which are disgusting. So good stuff happening here. We'll keep our eye on this one. Thanks for joining as we do.